Ants are some of the world's most impressive creations. They are among the strongest animals in the world and take up as much as 20% of the biomass for terrestrial animals. Turn the clock back 65 million years ago, and that's when ants first developed agriculture, something humans only managed to do 12,000 years ago. And if you look at ants on a global scale, you'll notice that they form transcontinental supercolonies, with GDPs rivaling several island nations. Then we have these ants. They don't live long and they're not that impressive. Have you ever wanted to be one of them? Then Terraria is the game for you. It's a game where you move, dig, and fish in a massive two-dimensional ant farm. The early game in Terraria is one of the most important things to talk about, because it really is an earlier game. This is not the same game as this. This prequel to the game will pit you against a hostile world that you weren't made for. There are vast deserts, high mountains, and deep cave systems. And you are a guy who can power walk. Consequently, this is your life until you unlock superior forms of transportation. And if this wasn't hard enough, you'll soon notice that there is a daylight cycle. Normally, this wouldn't be cause for alarm, but in Terraria, the first sunset is often your last. Under these conditions, fishing is impossible. But that's why I've made this guide to help you. The flesh may be weak, but industrial infrastructure isn't. This will protect the essentials from the horrors of the outside world. It may seem weird that a door is able to protect you, but door handle is not in a zombie's vocabulary, so your essentials will be fine. Your ears, however, won't be. There is a solution to this, but it's complicated, so we'll come back to it. In this sheltered environment, you may be tempted to make your first fishing pole. Don't. This is a disgrace to fishing poles everywhere. Instead, you'll want to shoot for the fiberglass fishing pole. First, you need to locate the desert in your world. There might be two of them, but you'll want to find the big one. It can be identified by the presence of the underground desert biome. From here, you'll need to mark the edges. It should be in roughly the shape of a giant fish tank. Start mining, and remember, for natural walls, you need to start by using your hammer on the edge first. You can't just start in the middle. By the end, there shouldn't be a desert. Now, the fishing pole should be in an ivy chest in the jungle somewhere. If not, it's a dead run and you need to load a new world. But once you do get a fishing pole, your problems aren't over yet. At this point, I should probably mention that you don't play this game with sound, which will bring some peace to your fishing. Regardless, neighbors are a pretty unsightly thing to have on your property. To deal with them, you're going to need the most powerful weapon that you can get your hands on. An HOA. Gone are the days of people just wandering onto your property. Trespassers, solicitors, landscapers, no one escapes the wrath of the association. Unfortunately, the Homeowners Association isn't all positives. As more and more people join your community, you may notice that drama is beginning to unfold. Fortunately for you, none of this matters. I have never once cared about what any of these people think, and nothing bad has happened yet. In fact, all of them being in one place makes the collection of HOA fees very efficient. These members of your homeowners association have varying degrees of usefulness. In total, there are about 28 of them. And throughout a successful 30-hour playthrough, you'll probably interact with up to 3 of them. Because at the end of the day, they're background characters, and you're the protagonist. And just like any protagonist who finds themselves waking up in a strange new world, you're gonna need a character class. There are several to choose from, each has their own strengths and weaknesses. They also each have unique accessories, weapons, and armor. So there are a lot of factors to consider. Running the numbers on something like this would be complicated. So let's perform a simple test and observe how well each class does when fishing out in the open. First, the melee class. I predict the high defense will come in handy. But it looks like the increased aggro is causing some difficulties. Now let's look at magic and ranged, since they're basically the same class. Both of them actually don't have any benefits. And that's about what I expected. Now let's see how well summoning does. Interesting. Now let's try somewhere else. As I suspected, Summoner is the best class for playing the game. And if you build your Summoner right, you won't even see enemies on the screen. Considering the fact that this is a guide, I'm sure you feel entitled to an explanation on how to actually build a Summoner. But I don't have the credentials nor the heart to give you potentially incorrect information. So rather than talk about specific gear, I'll talk about the general items that you should be looking for. First is armors. Most of them do have defense. You won't be needing that. Instead, pay attention to minion buffs. You want damage and minion slots. Armors also come in sets, and are only worth it if you're wearing the whole thing. Next is your weapon. There are a couple of options for summoners, like Silly String and Packing Peanuts. You could use these, or weapons that do damage. Then you need to worry about your accessories. There is a lot of variation, so just make sure you have one from each of the basic categories. After you get all of this, you're still not done. You need a pet and a hook. And I say this tentatively, but feel free to choose your favorite. After you've collected all of these items, you'll notice you've accumulated some stats. You'll see defense, minion slots, damage, minion damage. But remember, any stat that you see isn't going to be important, because the best stat is luck. Luck decides everything from drop rates to ping. Luck is influenced in a variety of ways, and optimization can be achieved through several proven methods. I don't keep track of any of this, because there is nothing to keep track of. It is an invisible stat, and it should stay that way. Simply believing I'm at max luck is a more reliable method of getting drops than whatever is going on here. So, why are these stats important? How did you get the items to affect your stats? And who is covering the screen right now? The answer to all of these questions is the same. Terraria bosses. Some people say that there are a lot of bosses in Terraria, but in reality there's just one, Cthulhu. He just happens to be separated into a couple pieces, and in the possession of some exotic merchandise. Getting access to all of the cool items in Terraria involves killing as much of Cthulhu as you can. First you kill his various body parts, then his skeleton, followed by some of his then you'll have to defeat various bionic Cthulhu body parts, then his cat, his dog, fish, a bug he swallowed, his fan base, and finally, all of the pieces together. Although I should mention that merely killing all of them once won't even get you half of the items that you need. And that's assuming you've maxed out your luck stat. The bosses often drop just under what you need, so it becomes necessary to farm for the drops you need. This may sound like a problem, but as a summoner, farming happens whether you want it to or not. This constant farming is actually so intrusive that it is the biggest problem you will be facing as a summoner. Everywhere you go, you will be picking up items. Under the weight of these items, damage and minion slots will mean nothing. Your new most valuable stat will be your dwindling inventory space. You can throw out items or make dump chests, but the moment you walk outside again, your inventory will fill right back up. The situation seems hopeless, I know, but this is a guide, so I'm only going to mention problems that I have solutions to. And the solution for this problem is shockingly simple. Cover everything in lava. Not only will this get rid of items, but it has the added benefit of damaging hostile entities as well. Now, obviously there is a catch to this, a downside, I guess. And it's the fact that lava will only affect items of the lowest rarity. So there are still going to be a lot of items that you'll have to deal with. The best solution to this is to get Tmod Loader and download an auto trash mod. Now you can deal with both high and low rarity items. Now that we've covered all of the tacked on RPG elements, let's cover the core gameplay mechanics. The fishing cycle starts at 4:30 a.m. with your dailies. These are given by the angler, who will ask you to ethically source rare species of fish. Once you find the fish, your reward is a random item that makes you realize the quest probably wasn't worth it. To find these rare fish, water isn't always going to cut it. The fishing that you do will also have to happen in lava and honey, but not just any pool of liquid will do. You'll need a certain amount of it to fish optimally. For oceans, this number is over 1,000 blocks. For honey, it's 200. Normal bodies of water fall about in the middle of these two at 300 blocks. Knowing all of this information is good, but it's not enough, because you have to recognize what 300 blocks looks like out in the wild. So, which of these pools of water has the 300 water blocks required for optimal fishing? I'll give you plenty of time, so don't feel rushed. If you guessed any of these pools, you'd be wrong. The size of the water source while fishing is calculated based on the width of the surface of the liquid and then its depth. As a result, these are the actual sizes of the pools. And the only thing you'll be able to catch in them is junk. You'll also only catch junk if your fishing power is too low. This probably will never happen, I hope. But if you find yourself struggling, there are a couple of ways to boost your score. You can fish at specific times or during specific weather, or even during certain phases of the moon. Or, more effectively, you could try being a water sign. If you are not a water sign at the moment, just retake the personality quiz. And if all of that wasn't enough, there are some questionable methods that can raise your fishing power even further. But that's something you should discover on your own if that's what you're into. With all of this information I have given you, nothing will be able to stop you from being a successful fisherman in Terraria. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.